Hello everybody, Sawyer189 here. I'm going to be basically going over some of my graphic novels and trades. Now, I think I've done one or two videos like this before, but since then I had reorganized all my trades, and so I kind of forgot where I left off and which ones I'd already covered and which ones I didn't. So if there's some books in here that I've already talked about on camera or on YouTube, just forgive me. Just go with it because there'll be some other stuff too. But like I said, I recently took all my graphic novels off my bookshelf, reorganized them onto a different shelf, and now I'm just gonna be going through them as I go through that shelf. So there shouldn't be any more overlap after this series of videos. So first, for this video, it's gonna be kind of a shorter one. Probably be going over mostly like collections, like hardback and softback collections of like older stuff, mostly Silver Age and Golden Age characters. So I'll just jump into it. I guess I'll go with the hardbacks first since I have less of those. We have hardcovers, how do you call it? We have XMen Volume 5, Classic Jetco DC Archives Edition. Really cool book here. Here are all these old covers. Jetco is just one of my favorite illustrators of like the Golden Age. It just has so much, does so much cool stuff. Like, and Plasma has some weird stories, man. Some really weird, some really visually interesting stories. Just the kind of stuff you don't see every day, and especially like in this one, which is Volume 1 of Plasma. This one's really beat up. I've had it for a long time. I think I covered this in an individual review one time. But yeah, like it's just so much like classic Golden Age stories. Like this one where he's fighting a pair of severed hands that are like possessed and they have a mind of their own. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, this is such a crazy story. Let's see. Then we have the Fantastic Four Masterworks Volume 1. No, Volume 6, my bad. Is it Volume 6 or is it... Wait. Yeah, I think it's Volume 6, but I think it's Fantastic Four Volume 2 or something like that. Because... What does this collect? This collects Fantastic Four number 11 to number 20. So obviously the Masterworks are volumed by when they come out, not what characters they are. So that's kind of cool. That can be very misleading though. But yeah, this one basically collects the classic, Fantastic Four issues from 11 to 20, which has some stuff like, like them fighting the Hawk in the first one, them fighting the Impossible Man, first time the Impossible Man appears. The Impossible Man is kind of like Mr. Nisselplex from Superman. He's a very just godlike character that just causes trouble all the time. Now, I lost the jacket for this book a long time ago, so there's no jacket on here. But this is a nice, real nice, sturdy hardcover, plain. This is a plain book, as it is right now. Just like the DC Archive ones. I'm pretty sure if you took the DC Archive and the Masterworks and put them side by side without covers, they would look exactly the same or very similar. Then we have the Legion of Superheroes, volume number 2. Yeah. So this is pretty cool. Collect some very classic Silver Age stories, like the first appearance of the Legion of Substitute Heroes, as you can see here. We also have, is it right here? I think it's over here. Yeah, the classic. We have the classic story where Light Lad dies and someone has to sacrifice their life to bring him back to life. That's a classic one. But yeah, Legion of Superheroes is a really fun kind of Silver Age, Silly Age, sci-fi, kind of sci-fi Teen Titans or future Teen Titans. And then the last hardback or hardcover I have is Bloodshot number 1. Is this number 1? Yes, number 1. This collects the first 4 or 5 issues of Bloodshot from the 90s. Very cool 90s valiant entertainment character. I like to think of him kind of like a cross between Wolverine and Punisher. That's how I've always kind of felt about him. And now let's get into the some of the softbacks. These are all going to be Marvel Essentials, which I used to really like these because they were cheap. You got a lot of story, and they were cheap. They don't have color. Like the pages don't have color inside of them, but that was okay because you really didn't need the color. I didn't feel like I needed the color. So this is Ant-Man Volume 1. This mostly has just, it's like, because the first 15 or so Ant-Man stories, are in Tales to Astonish. This is mostly a bunch of Tales to Astonish issues. But yeah, some really interesting like classic stories. Like, I mean, you would think Ant-Man, if you look at Ant-Man today in the movies and stuff, you would think that he mostly dealt with like, you know, normal criminals, kind of like blue collar crime, but not blue collar, but you know what I mean. But no, in these stories, he's fighting a lot of sci-fi stuff. He's fighting aliens and microscopic like monsters and things. And it gets really crazy. Then we have, it's kind of dusty. Then we have Captain America, volume number 2. This collects some of like the early Silver Age stories when he first kind of got defrosted or whatever. A lot of cool stuff. You got the classic Cosmic Cube stuff here with Red Skull. There's just some really cool stories in here. Like you got a lot of stuff with the Axis or whatever, the Exiles, which are basically a group of like high-ranking Nazi officers that survived, and they were trying to recreate, the Nazi Empire or whatever. Then you have Essential X-Men #1. This is like classic Jack Kirby, Stan Lee, X-Men from the '60s. This collects like the first, I think the first 20 or so issues. I think that's how it went, or first 15 issues, something like that. I'm sure it says it somewhere. Yeah, X-Men #1 to X-Men #24. So 24 issues in there. Then we have Essential X-Men #1 again, but this is volume 1 of the second run. Whenever a lot of people will debate that this is the run that really kind of brought X-Men into the tenfold. Like, this is what, like because the first X-Men run was actually canceled because it wasn't very popular. It was actually doing badly. But then so many years later, you get this new like creative team that basically like revamped the franchise, basically stripped it down, took most of the characters off the team, like most of the original characters, had them kind of retire or whatever, and you just had Cyclops left. It's just Cyclops running Cyclops and Professor X, and you had a whole new team of characters that most of them are today are just staples. Wolverine, Storm, Colossus, and Nightcrawler. Those are just staples now. Like they're just huge X-Men characters. Then you also have some other characters that are not so much, like Thunderbird here and Banshee that's not on the cover, and also Sunfire that's not on the cover. But it's still those stories in that book are some of the most classic X-Men stories that really hold true. And then we have another X-Men book, X-Men Volume 4 of that second run. Pretty cool cover. This has some stories such as the marriage of Cyclops and Jean Grey. You got stuff like some of the Shi'ar stuff and some of the Boar stuff. A lot of the high fantasy sci-fi like space opera stuff. Because they started doing that like in the 80s. X-Men got really involved with like space opera and like alien invasion type of storylines. So then we have, let's see. Then we have some SpiderMan collections. We got the Essential. These are real beat up. I think my mom actually bought these for me somewhere like a few years back. She found them at a flea market or something. And she knows I like comic books, so she just picked them up for me. But it's funny because she doesn't really know like what kind of comic books I like. So sometimes I get really random things that I would never probably read, and then sometimes I get stuff like this that I actually care about, and it's actually pretty cool because it's collecting Spider-Man issues. So this has Amazing Fantasy #15, the first appearance. It also has Amazing Spider-Man #1 through 20 and Amazing Spider-Man Annual #1. So that's cool. And then we have Amazing Spider-Man Volume 2. Collects Amazing Spider-Man #21 to #43. And then Amazing Spider-Man Annual #2 and 3. And yeah, and then just you got your classics, black and white collections. Like I said, I really like the Essentials. It made it so that you could, as like a reader, if you really wanted to sit down and read all these old Silver Age stories, it wouldn't kill your wallet. I mean, yeah, they're like $20. They're like what, $15 a piece or something like that. Yeah, they're about $14.99 a piece. So that's really not bad for 20 issues, guys. Because what is it? Graphic novels nowadays of new series. When you buy a graphic novel for a brand new series that just got put in the graphic novel form, usually you're paying what, $10, $15 for 4 issues. They're in color, but it's 4 issues versus the 20-something issues you get in these that are not in color. I think that's a damn good trade-off. I don't know if they still make those. I don't think they do, but like let me know if they still if the snitchers are still being made, because I feel like DC and Marvel really need to find some kind of line or run of books that they can just reprint the stories and just keep doing it. Like, because the problem with Masterworks, the problem with DC Archives and stuff like that is that they do so many of them, and then it seems like they always stop. Like, I really don't think they go all the way to current age. If they do, I don't know, or the current age of that time. But they really just need like an ongoing series. They need something that's not limited. That's an ongoing series that just collects the stories until we get to present day, which I know would take forever, but still they need to do something like that. Because there's certain characters that I would love to just pick up every single volume of their collected stories. But the problem is I don't really know how to do it, because sometimes, you know, the Marvel Masterworks that or whatever end at a certain number, and then they start another line like a couple years later, and that starts back over, and then it overlaps a little bit. I don't know if you guys know what I mean, but it seems like there's some overlapping where you might have to like buy 2 books or whatever just to get those stories, and it's really annoying. I wish there was a more, I don't know, if there is, I don't know about it, but I wish there was a more like streamlined way to know like how to pick up all the reprints and like in order. Because for example, I would love to read the Punisher stories chronological order, like get through all that. So, and I know they have several of the essentials. I might have to try to hunt those down one day. But yeah, there are certain characters like Punisher and Green Arrow that I would love to just kind of read chronologically through their stories over the years. So anyway, thank you guys for checking out the video, and I'll come out with some more later on, following more of my graphic novels. Peace.